This is Gomez of the Jekyllhydeclub, and I have for you the Crystal Power Tarot from our good friend Karen. I have been blessed with decks, and Karen has given me another good one. She always finds the interesting ones that I could use really well. This is the Crystal Power Tarot by Jane Wallace, and it is a gemstone deck. It's called the Crystal Power, but crystal here is used in a sense as a generic term. Enough of the stones used are not technically in the crystal family from the gemological perspective. There are jaspers and other things that I would call them sometimes gems or precious stones or semi-precious stones, depending on what they are. They're not always really crystal, so don't let the name deceive you, but it doesn't really matter. The properties listed in the booklet are still very accurate, spot on, so I really like that deck. Its artwork kind of reminds me of another one that I reviewed earlier, also maybe from Karen, Tarot of the Spirit World. It was one of my favorite decks, and it seems to follow similar concepts in the artwork. So I will provide the link below for those of you who want to compare and decide if it's similar or not. But without further ado, here is the deck itself. Each card here has an inspirational note, keywords to go by. So it is still a tarot deck, it is not an oracle deck, so it has 78 cards, which is cool. But it also supports that feature that usually is more present in the oracle decks, where they have this inspirational message below. So, for the Fool in particular, the message is, I am guided and protected on my life's journey. And otherwise the Fool is depicted in his traditional position, where he is carrying a bag, sort of like a baggage from past experiences on his shoulders. And as far as the stone association, then it has all 7 stones representing the 7 chakras. The stones here are clear quartz, amethyst, sodalite, green aventurine, citrine, carnelian, and red jasper. The next card here is the Magician, and the message for the Magician is, I manifest perfectly what I desire, and the stone associated with it is the citrine. The next card is the High Priestess, and the stone associated with her is the lapis lazuli. Her message is, my intuition guides me to the truth. The Empress card is associated with rhodonite, which is appropriate for creativity. And the message that she embodies is, I create what I choose naturally and with joy. The Emperor here is associated with the red jasper. I think it's pretty appropriate. I analyzed many times in my playlist the concept of the Emperor and how he derives his power and stability from his throne often. There are some exceptions, but usually it's the throne he sits on that represents his right to rule. And red jasper is also representative of that kind of stability, the earth element, and sometimes I mentally use the exercise of making myself more into a red jasper, where if emotions overwhelm me or something, or life situation, I can feel like I'm stable by being surrounded by that energy that grounds me. Quartz tie me to the ground, just like red jasper, where I'm stable and impervious. And I feel this is how the Emperor also acts, where he is impervious to the fluctuations of life. And the message associated with the Emperor is, I make empowered choices. The Hierophant goes with the Amethyst, and the message for her is, I'm ready to love and learn. The Lover's card is of course Rose Quartz, because Rose Quartz is the stone of love. And the message to go with the card is, I trust my knowing and make a commitment. The Chariot card is carnelian, and the message to go with it, I go forward with confidence. An interesting peculiarity here is that usually the two horses in the Chariot are black and white, as derived from the old idea of Plato about two horses, one representing man's noble desires, the other representing the baser desires, and there being a balance between the two sets of desires in Plato's philosophy, and man being virtuous and all that. But this horse is black and the other one here is golden, which is a nice touch. It is not distracting from the message, it still comes across clearly. Justice is associated with sodalite, and the message here is, I speak my truth in fairness to myself. The natural association that we know of for the scales is of course the constellation, but I'm often thinking in terms of Egyptian mythology with this tarot card, where it's the feather of Ma'at weighed against the heart of the prospective sinner to decide whether he passes the test or not, because I think of justice as correspondence between two values, two expectations, what you think you deserve and what you actually get. So to me it is that concept of Egyptian mythology, and this situation with sodalite represents it fairly well. And I speak my truth in fairness to myself, that sounds just like the epitome of that message to me. The Hermit is pretty brilliant too. He is here associated with the turquoise, and his message is, I follow my own path. But to my mind, the caduceus that he's holding makes him slightly apart from other types of hermits. Mostly hermits isolate to find the inner truth and then bring the truth out to the general public and teach them. But here the caduceus shows that he is actually more involved. He cannot really fully separate himself. He is not detached. He is observing, he is involved with life, he participates. And for that reason he is one of my favorite hermits that I have seen. I like that aspect because it's so unusual and it rings quite true to his character. And I also like the fancy lantern that he's not carrying as he usually would. Normally he would carry it in his hand like that, but in this version it is actually standing next to him. So it shows a perfect balance between his ability to learn from life, to participate, to not be dragged down, and to still bring out that light for himself and others. The Wheel of Fortune is represented by green aventurine, and the message is, I trust whatever the universe brings me. The booklet here makes emphasis on the positive elements as far as lucky. Green aventurine is the stone of joy, so it brings good tidings and stuff. In general, Wheel of Fortune I think is more neutral. It can bring both good and ill tidings, and neither of them are that drastic. They could be random, unpredictable, and tolerable at large, and out of people's control. So the green aventurine is appropriate for the positive side. For the negative, possibly other gemstones could represent it, but then that would break the flow. So I guess that is to be taken into account if you choose to do readings. Strength is adorable, a beautiful lion as always. The stone here is Herkimer diamond, and the message is, I can deal with whatever comes my way. The Hanged Man is the selenite, and the message is, I can see this situation another way. The Death card is Phantom Quartz. I let go and embrace new beginnings. In a sense, this is one of my favorite cards because the gemstone character of this deck is best accentuated here. For me, the Phantom stands out more in the general background, making it less as a tarot and more as a gemstone, and the other seems like the balance goes usually the other way. I like both really, I don't have a preference, but this one makes for me the gemstone character stand out. The next card is Temperance. It's blue calcite. I find clarity through calm. The Devil. The Devil is a little different here too. Usually we see some kind of a devil figure, and here if the devil is present I don't see this clearly, it's somewhere in the background, and instead we see what seems more like two lovers. So even though this is not a typical aspect of all tarot decks or anything, but in this deck specifically I would suggest that the devil and the lovers card would be influencing each other based on their artistic similarity. At any rate, the stone associated with the devil is obsidian, and the message is, I'm free of whatever is holding me back. The next card is the Tower. The stone related to it is rutilated quartz and hematite. And the message that it presents is, I surrender and know how to go forward. The star is associated with tanzanite. The message for it, I'm inspired and positive about the future. The moon card is the rainbow moonstone. My intuition guides me to the right decision. Based on the similarity of the message here, again this is not a common feature but sometimes it happens, I would associate this card with the high priestess. They might go together and influence each other in a reading. So that would be a group of cards because they both, in this case, guide a kind of intuition, and maybe the Hierophant too, for that matter. The next card is the Sun, and the stone with it is Sunstone. And the message is, I am optimistic and appreciate all I have. The next card is Judgment, represented by Bloodstone, and the message is, I look back with compassion for myself. The next card is the World, associated with titanium quartz, and the message for it is, I celebrate life and welcome new energy. Pentacles here are super cute. They're all represented by malachites. So they're different versions of malachites, and that would be just the whole suit with different numbers. So this is the basic malachite, which is the ace, and then it goes to two of the same kind. They're adorable malachites. They all have messages of their own, and the booklet has all of them, and it will also show you more details, so I'm just going to flip briefly through them. And then we have Knight of Pentacles, that is a pyrite, and Queen, that is the pyrite, and King, that is the pyrite. So that was kind of interesting that the court cards were separated from the regular cards by different stones. One was malachite and one was pyrite. Then we're moving on to the next suit, Cups, and the cups are represented by aquamarine. But the court cards here again are separated, and we see that it moves into Angel Aqua Aura instead of the aquamarine that the regular cards had. Then we start with wands, and here we go into Garnet. That's a really nice stone, I like it a lot. I'm even wearing one now as I'm doing this review. As you might guess by now, we go from 1 to 10 with the garnets, but for the court card starting with page, we move to a different stone that is a yellow calcite. Then we start the next element, swords. They are represented by Sugilite. That's a really nice sword. The handle seems very inspiring somehow. And the message for it, I'm ready for a breakthrough to success. And then when we're done with Sugilite with the 10 of swords, Page of Swords moves into Imagery. And also interesting how there is an interesting transition from the regular cards to from the numbered cards to the court cards, where it can be shown through changing color, and that would be always a significant transition. If you're doing a reading, it would mean something. So here we move to Page of Swords, that is bluish, where the other one was purple. And then we move to the beginning, which is the Fool. So this deck came in this interesting box that has this lid. It itself is covered with artwork, also very nice. And the booklet by Jane Wallace. It's very thorough, it's very accurate, covers all the cards, explains the layouts. It has how many pages? Let's see. It has 64 pages, so I'm very pleased with this. It's very thorough. I liked several elements in this deck. I liked how it combines the regular tarot with inspirational messages that are more prevalent for oracle decks. I liked how there are accurate representations of gemstones throughout, connections to chakras, and I liked how the court cards are separated in their own right. It's very nice. I'm looking forward to working more with that deck. So thank you very much, Karen, another great gift. And I have more reviews if you're interested in other flip-throughs and unusual decks. Tarot Insights with Gomez is my playlist. I will provide the link below. And until next time, stay metaphysical, my friends.